A Million Suns. It's a song that was written by the one and only Scotty Lidgetwood and Dean Crusher Usher. I don't know why, but the guys were like really nervous about like submitting song. Like I was like, come on guys, like, have you got any songs? And like, all right, we haven't got anything that we think's. And I love that. Like,
They're very humble.
They're very humble. And then eventually, you know, I hear this song and I'm like, why wouldn't you? Like I heard a demo of it randomly. It's a really awesome song. But it sounded nothing like what it sounds like now. And I think I love you know, metaphors and pictures. Like I love word pictures, and I thought the lyrics in this song were really cool, and just the vibe of it was awesome. And we'd actually kind of finished recording everything, and then this song kind of came about. And so I hit up Mikey and I'm like, hey man, can we like go back into the studio again? Which he was probably expecting. And so sure enough, we went into the studio. It was a cool studio. We were at
Electric Lady.
Electric Lady. It was that upstairs part, which is like the smaller part of the studio.
Yeah, and keeping in mind that we had like spent, you know, months in like a cave, like a warehouse, like stinky, rat-filled,
like
moldy warehouse where it was just like
whatever the weather was outside was the weather inside.
Yeah, we recorded this in like, you know, poverty. Seemed. And then, you know, all of a sudden we're in this like beautiful studio, you know, and it was like, oh wow, why didn't we do this all along? And because we couldn't afford it, but nonetheless, you know, we were in this studio but we didn't have like all the band. We only had Dylan, Cobes, and myself.
So the concept of the song was that we'd had so many songs that were like 4 on the floor, right? So I had this idea of like doing like a misplaced kick thing. This doesn't really make much sense with the song. Cut a long story short, I thought the song could be like way faster, and I thought that the drums could be more vibey and all that. And it was a long shot, and I didn't want to come up with all this stuff and then just have it not work because no one had played it together. So I came up with this idea that like, we'll get, you know, Cobes obviously will play drums, and then we'll get Dylan on bass, and then Joel will play the crappiest Casio keyboard that they had at the studio.
It was the worst keyboard I've ever played. Evidently it belonged to Ryan Adams,
yeah.
right, which is awesome. But he deserves better. You're better than that, Ryan Adams.
So he was scrolling through the sounds, and he found like this real awful like 80s like organ sound. And and so anyway, I print off the lyrics to everyone, and you ended up singing it.
I love Casio keyboards.
It was the like most difficult thing to track, because you had to, like, you know, it's cool. Like, I can play music and like, you know, with vision and hear how it's going to sound. Yeah.
Really
well, no, it was just absolutely terrible. If anyone got to hear the scratch, which you have, like, I mean, it's like you literally would look at it and go like, how does that become this? And we just had to like really focus and go, this is sounding good.
But the thing is that the song's really good, and I love the lyrics in this song, and I just didn't want it to get lost in a bad treatment, and so I spent so much time trying to get everyone, you know, like we would eventually go back to being 4 on the floor, and we'd eventually go back, and I'd keep going, no, like let's keep this idea going. And even with where we left it, the drums sounded great, but no offense, but everything else sounded
I'm not
awful.
offended. It was awful.
The keyboard part sounded really good. Not really.
But we had, you know, you could see where it was going, and like Cobes did a great job on the drums, and it just had this cool vibe. And then, you know, the next time I heard it, it was like night and day. Like I heard it all kind of finished. I was like,
yeah. Well, we got Pete James and Tenny and all those guys on it. The other thing is I got Laura to sing the vocal, which obviously helped a lot because your voice was still a little bit awesome.
I remember you being like, Mikey's the sort of guy who will just slave over a song and make it what it is. Like, he won't stop until it is what it is. And he goes, I think I finally cracked that song, A Million Suns, and it's the guitar line at the start.
Yeah.
And it's like it's the most simple guitar line, but I think it's one of the coolest guitar lines I've ever heard. And to me, it tied the song together as an awesome song. So it was the cherry on top.
I tried to redo it when I was in the studio, and it just didn't sound good, so we just used the scratch version.
Always seems to
What do you
happen.
do?